There we are. So I would like to say a big welcome to Kate, who is joining us today. She has lots of knowledge about finance and benefits and cancer, and she will be telling us all about how we can access any of those benefits that we're entitled to. She's tied to Macmillan, aren't you, Kate?
Yes.
Macmillan Financial Advisor, and she's very knowledgeable. So if you do have any questions or anything at the end, or perhaps you can probably ask as we go through, do store them up, because it would be really good opportunity to get some of that advice personally. So I will hand over to Kate and we'll get started.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming along today. My name is Kate Frankel and I'm one of a small team of benefits advisors, normally based at the Royal Berkshire Hospital in the Cancer Centre. We're employed by Citizens Advice, but funded by Macmillan in a joint project, and we cover the whole of Berkshire. Anyone living in or being treated in the county is entitled to our help. I understand I could be talking to anyone of any age with any cancer today, so I'll try and give you enough information for you to know what you might be eligible for and need to know more about, and where you can find out more about it. There is information about benefits on the Royal Berkshire website under the cancer area, finance, and perhaps you will already have had the quick guide to financial support sent out by the Cancer Centre. So hopefully the names of these different benefits will not be a complete surprise to you. I understand also that Vicky has sent out a list of links that I will be referring to occasionally, and you should find those helpful if you're following up some of the information. I imagine that when you first get your diagnosis, you begin by dealing with the shock of that. But maybe, particularly if you are of working age, you may then think about how you're going to manage financially if you can't work. It's the people of working age who are usually hit hardest because their income is more likely to drop. If you're already receiving your state pension, then it will continue being paid. So I'm going to begin with income for working age people. After that, I'll talk about people over state pension age, and I'll talk about disability benefits. First of all, we'll talk about non-means tested benefits, where your other income or that of your partner is not taken into account. Sorry. Sorry, I should have had this open.
That's all right.
There. Right. Suppose you're working and then you feel too ill to carry on working. You are having radiotherapy or chemotherapy treatment and then are going to have surgery. You may need time off and are worried about pay. Some fortunate people will have an employment contract that will pay sick pay, maybe full pay for as long as 6 months, and then 6 months of half pay. That's usually the best possible situation to be in. But if you don't have sick pay in your contract, but have started working for your employer and are earning at least £120 per week, your employer must still pay you a minimum of £96.35 a week statutory sick pay for up to 28 weeks. Even if you're getting sick pay under your employment contract, statutory sick pay, known as SSP, will be included in that, with extra pay making it up to your normal pay amount. Just to make that clearer, supposing you just have 2 months of full sick pay, maybe 9 weeks, that pay will include the first 9 weeks of your SSP entitlement, and when it ends, you will still get another 19 weeks of SSP. I hope that's clear for everybody. After that, there may be something else you can claim that is not means tested, called New Style Employment and Support Allowance, and it will depend on your record of paying national insurance contributions in 2 particular years. If you make an application in this calendar year, 2022, then they would take into account your record of contributions in the last 2 complete financial years before 2022. That is, the years 2019-20 and 2020-21. If you have paid enough contributions, then the job centre will pay you £74.70 a week while they decide whether you are too ill to work, and you will need to send in fit notes or sick notes. They will send you a long form to fill in called the Capability for Work questionnaire, and it will look scary, but it may not be too bad, because if you do not have other health conditions besides cancer, then you may not have to fill in too much. If you're going to have chemotherapy or radiotherapy treatment, are actually having it or recovering from it, then you tick some of those boxes about cancer, leave out all the hard questions, and get your cancer nurse to fill in a medical statement at the end before you sign the form and send it back. In most cases, that should avoid the need for any kind of health assessment. And after about 13 weeks of being paid £74.70, your award should go up to £114.10 a week and carry on as long as you continue to be eligible. If you have health conditions in addition to the cancer, you will need to answer all those harder questions, and you can get help to do that on the Citizens Advice website. Have a look at your list of computer links under Fill in the ESA Capability for Work form. If you're still struggling or you want to challenge a decision made by the job centre, then ask your nurse to refer you, that's your specialist nurse at the hospital, to refer you to us for help. This benefit can only actually be paid when you are no longer entitled to statutory sick pay, but you can make your claim up to 3 months in advance if you know you won't be going back to work immediately, and if you know when your SSP will end, so it is all ready to be paid when your SSP does end. It can also be backdated up to 3 months if you hadn't known about it in time, but you will need to prove that you weren't well enough to work during that time. It can be paid even if you are still receiving some contractual sick pay from your employer after your SSP stops, like those people who get a period of full pay and then some half pay, which goes on beyond 28 weeks. But please note that the contribution-based ESA is taxable and tax is not deducted at source, so you might receive a bill in due course. So we've now talked about 2 sickness benefits, statutory sick pay and new style employment and support allowance. Now, supposing that you are on reduced pay, if you had full sick pay, that might be now only half pay or SSP. Maybe you weren't working at all, but your partner has had to cut down their working hours because you need more help to manage looking after yourself. Money is becoming more of a worry and you're finding it difficult to afford your living costs. Note, if you are already receiving the old benefits, working tax credit and or child tax credit or housing benefit, you may need more advice at this point, and we suggest that you get help from us, ask your nurse to refer you, or contact the Macmillan Benefits Advisers on the Macmillan helpline. If you are not getting tax credits, then you may be able to claim universal credit, which is means tested. You must have no more than £16,000 in savings in order to be eligible. And if you're part of a couple, you will be assessed as a couple, taking into account your joint income, additional property, although not your home, and savings on the one hand, but paying allowances for you, children, and rent on the other hand. If you're paying a mortgage, it's not so good. No recognition of your housing costs will be made for the first 39 weeks of being on universal credit, and then you can ask for a loan towards your mortgage interest. But the Department for Work and Pensions places a charge on your property so that the money can be recovered when you sell. If you have disabled children, extra account will be taken of their disability, but no account will be taken of your own disability or that of your partner. Incidentally, if you're having problems paying your mortgage, we recommend that you contact the financial guidance team on the Macmillan helpline. They will talk you through your options before you speak to your mortgage lender so that you will already know what might be possible if you're hoping perhaps to reschedule payments. To claim universal credit, you will need an email address, a username and password, and will have to show ID and proof of address. An account online will be set up for you, and you will need to check it regularly to find out if you're being asked to do anything. You can communicate with your account handler, known as your job coach, through your account on a journal. Once your initial claim is complete, it will take about 5 weeks before any money is paid, and payments are made on a monthly basis. If you don't think you can manage your expenses while you wait to get paid, you can ask for a loan advance that you will have to pay back over the next year or two out of your universal credit award. If you're not able to work because of your illness or treatment, make sure you send in fit notes. Remember what we said about the new style employment and support allowance, that after 13 weeks you may be eligible for more money. This is also true in universal credit, and that questionnaire about capability for work will need to be filled in. If you're receiving SSP, you might be eligible for that extra money too, if you claim universal credit. 13 weeks is a bit generous. It's actually the 4th assessment period after they've seen a medical form for you. So it takes a little bit longer. If you are under state pension age, but your partner is not, then you would still need to claim universal credit unless you have been receiving other benefits for pension age claimants for some time. So get advice on this. Moving on to pension age income, in some ways you may be better off at this stage because you will hopefully have a state pension and maybe an occupational pension that should not change when you're diagnosed with your illness. However, increasingly, people are continuing to work into their retirement to continue paying a mortgage, and so illness is bad news. You can still be paid statutory sick pay by your employer, but New Style Employment and Support Allowance is not paid to claimants over retirement age because it's an income replacement benefit, as is state pension. If, however, you and your partner are on low income, you may be eligible for something called pension credit as a top-up. When universal credit was introduced for working age people, the benefits for pension age claimants weren't affected by the change, so you can still claim housing benefit to help with rent. And if you're getting pension credit, you could be eligible for the full amount of your rent. If you still have a mortgage, help with a mortgage interest loan may be available with pension credit, but as for universal credit, there would be a charge on the property. And like universal credit, though, you will not have to wait 39 weeks before you can claim it. It's available straight away. If you're receiving a disability benefit for self-care and living on your own, with nobody receiving a carer's allowance for looking after you, you could be eligible for a disability premium, so get some advice. It could add money to pension credit and possibly housing benefit and council tax reduction, so it could be worth about £67 or more extra each week. Get some advice if you're in these circumstances. I'll tell you more about disability and carers benefits shortly. People of all ages might be eligible for help with council tax if you're on a low income, but different local authorities have different schemes for working age applicants. In Reading, you cannot have more than about £3,000 in savings, and the details of their scheme are not transparent on the website. If you're receiving full help from universal credit, you're likely to qualify. But if you're receiving any universal credit at all, it's worth applying to see if you are eligible. In other local authorities, you could look at the website entitled2.co.uk, where there is a calculator, and they will give you an idea of what you may be eligible for in the way of council tax support. If you're over state pension age, your entitlement is easier to calculate because it's still a national scheme, and you can have up to £16,000 in savings and still qualify if your income is low. So again, we suggest that you check the calculator on Entitled 2. With all of these things, we are able to help with the calculation. Not everybody feels comfortable about giving private information about savings and income, that we would need to do that. So the Entitled 2 calculator is very useful from that point of view, because you can put your information in complete privacy. And then perhaps if you still feel that you might need help with actually making applications, you can come to us for help with doing that without having to reveal all your circumstances. Disability benefits. There are two main disability benefits: personal independence payment, or PIP, for working age people, and attendance allowance for people of state pension age. The main difference between them is that PIP has a mobility component. As the pension age rises and the government expects people to go on working later, more people will be eligible for PIP. If you've already claimed PIP when you reach state pension age and you still qualify for it, you won't have to change to attendance allowance. That is worth remembering, because if you're coming up to pension age and you're having trouble with mobility, it's worth applying very quickly for PIP on the chance that you might get a mobility element, which you would not lose when you reach pension age. Of course, if you waited to get attendance allowance, that mobility element wouldn't be available. So starting with PIP, which pays a maximum of £152.50 a week, including mobility. Lots of people with cancer look at the eligibility criteria on the government website and think they don't qualify. And the application form isn't very helpful to cancer patients. It's really geared more to people with stable conditions, and cancer isn't like that, at least in the early stages. Treatment and surgery and general unpredictability can make it all a roller coaster ride. You're not eligible for PIP unless you've been disabled by your condition for 3 months, with the expectation of a further 9 months. Sometimes the doctors think you'll make a quick recovery and you think you're going to be back at work after 6 months, so it wouldn't be worth applying. But then perhaps your recovery doesn't go as well as expected. Maybe the consultant found a complication during surgery, or you get an infection that doesn't heal. And actually it's a year before you feel well enough to return to work. But perhaps you didn't apply in time because you thought you would recover more quickly, so you missed out. With a lot of cancers requiring major surgery, we will therefore advise making an application on the basis that you can always withdraw if things go well, and you can reasonably be certain that you're not going to be disabled for a year after all. Answering questions on the PIP form, how your disability affects you, can be challenging sometimes. The decision makers look for answers about reliability, by which they mean whether you can do things safely, especially cooking, showering, and moving around, repeatedly. Do you need a long rest before you can do this again? In a reasonable amount of time? Will it take you more than twice as long as it would an able-bodied person? And to an acceptable standard? Is the food you cook burnt or not cooked through? Have you cleaned yourself properly? Those types of questions. All sorts of symptoms you're experiencing can affect these things. And this is true for attendance allowance claimants as well. Chemo and radiotherapy cause fatigue, confusion, sickness, and general debilitation. Medication may have a delayed effect, limiting your ability for half the day. Surgery may cause muscular weakness and lymphedema. Brain tumors and metastases may cause confusion and seizures and be unpredictable and unsafe, even if they rarely happen. Pain and breathlessness inhibit activity and slow you down. So what might this mean in practical terms when you come to fill in your form? The confusion means you might forget to take your medicine. Do you need a dosette box? Alarms? Can you understand what's being said to you about your condition? Processing information. Neuropathy from your chemo might make it difficult to open blister packs and bottles, and also deal with fastenings on your clothes. Can you grip a knife or hold a pan of hot liquid, hold a cup of tea safely? If you can't, is that from neuropathy or just weakness? Maybe weakness from surgery. Do you have neuropathy in your feet, so you have to be careful where you're placing your feet and feel you might trip or feel at risk of falling? Can you stand safely or feel at risk of falling with a hot pan of liquid or a knife? Might you forget to complete your task and leave the gas on under a pan? Does medication make you drowsy, so you're not safe in the kitchen? Do you sometimes choke, need your food to be pureed? Do you forget to eat altogether and need to be prompted or motivated? Do you need someone to cut up food for you, need to use a spoon because knives need more strength, or you can't control a fork? Can you walk unaided, need a stick, hold on to things for support? Do you need to stop and take rests? How far can you walk and how long does it take you? Is mixing with other people daunting? Does it cause you anxiety? If you go out, maybe you need to make sure you're near toilet facilities and need someone else with you because you might have an accident if you don't get there in time. When you go shopping, do you have difficulty using cards and remembering pins? Are you in pain when you do an activity? Do you suffer from breathlessness? Can you manage incontinence? Do you need help clearing up accidents, washing those clothes straight away? Do you need someone on hand when you shower? Help with washing and drying yourself? Will it take a long time? Will you be clean at the end? Do you need help with dressing yourself, upper or lower body, bending? All these are relevant to both benefits, so mention them in detail wherever relevant, although attendance allowance claimants are not expected to be cooking for themselves and only expected to be moving around indoors. Keeping a diary can be helpful. See the link under personal independence payment for a form. PIP is a points-based benefit with a standard and enhanced rate for daily living and mobility. Attendance allowance has a lower and higher rate, and you get the higher rate if you need frequent or prolonged attention at night as well as during the day. You need to have been disabled for 6 months to be eligible for attendance allowance. If you need help completing either of these forms, you can contact your nurse or the Macmillan Information Centre to be referred to us, and we can help you do that over the phone. Do ask for more information about this if you need it. Blue badge. If you have at least 8 points awarded on your PIP award for mobility, then you automatically qualify for this. If you have attendance allowance or are still awaiting your PIP award, then you will need plenty of medical evidence to explain why you have a need for a badge, which needs to be long-term. The assessment is all done online or by post. You will not be assessed physically. So it is up to you to provide the evidence and prove your case. You can apply for a blue badge on the government website, see your list, but they are actually issued by the local authority. The Macmillan Cancer Information Centre nurses can help you make an application if you're having difficulty. Carers allowance pays £67.70 a week. If you are looking after someone claiming a disability benefit for at least 35 hours a week, you may be eligible for a carer's allowance. But if you are working, you cannot earn more than £128 a week net and still claim. It's not a sliding scale. If you earn £129, you wouldn't get an allowance. Consider reducing your working hours, though, because adding the allowance to a lower amount of pay could make it worth your while. If you were earning, say, £127 net, then if you add £67.70 on top of that, then it's quite a considerable sum. Sometimes employers are willing to allow a period of unpaid leave, and with a letter proving that they have done this, it is possible to claim the carer's allowance for a set number of months. If you are claiming universal credit and are doing the caring, but are earning too much money to claim the carer's allowance itself, universal credit will still give you some recognition in the form of an additional payment element. Help with health costs. You could get help with health costs if you're on a low income, such as dental costs and wigs. You may be eligible for help with the cost of travel to your appointments if you aren't using hospital transport. If you're on universal credit or pension credit, you may be able to get your costs refunded automatically. Ask for a claim form at the clinic when you visit the hospital and take the completed form to the cash office with proof of your benefit award and a receipt for your travel, and it should be refunded. But try to use the cheapest form of transport available. That's usually public transport, but they will refund petrol costs with a note of the mileage from your home to the hospital. And if you have absolutely had to come by taxi and can justify it, maybe because you needed to be accompanied and the taxi was therefore cheaper anyway, they may cover that too. Even if you can't get this help, you may still be eligible for a contribution to the cost if you're on low income. You might need to get a health certificate. See the link on your list of useful information sources to find out how to do this. Finally, Macmillan grants. These are worth £350 and are means tested, but slightly differently from government benefits, because unlike benefits, they take into account housing and council tax costs, but on the other hand, they do not allow so much in savings. If you are a single person, you will qualify if you have no more than £6,000 in savings, and your weekly income after taking off rent or mortgage and council tax is no more than £323. If you're a couple or a family, you will qualify if you have no more than £8,000 in savings, and your weekly income after taking off housing costs is no more than £442. Macmillan have recently amended this so that if you are asking for help with your heating costs because you're feeling the cold more as a result of your cancer or the treatment, then they will add on an extra £115. And if you have short life expectancy, possibly less than 6 months, then they will add on another £150. Disability benefits are not taken into account as income, as I said. The grant must be for something connected with your cancer, such as mastectomy bras, a liquidizer, money for new clothes if you've changed weight or shape as a result of the cancer or treatment, and yours no longer fit you. Unusual travel costs, perhaps to a London or Oxford hospital. Or maybe you feel the cold more with your illness or treatment and you need help with the increased cost of heating. Macmillan will consider almost anything as long as you can relate it to your particular cancer. We can apply for the grant for you, or you can ask the nurses in the Macmillan Cancer Information Centre to do it for you. This is a brief overview of benefits, and hopefully it will have given you enough information to know what you might be able to apply for. If you feel you can't manage on your own, then do ask your nurse to refer you to us, or refer yourself via the Macmillan Information Centre at the Royal Berkshire Hospital on extension 8700. If we're very busy and you can't wait for a personal call, then do try the Macmillan helpline. So if anybody's got any questions, I will do my best to answer them.